When I first started tuning, I was all over the place. I figured if I just kept trying different things, eventually I'd figure it out. But what actually happened is I wasted a lot of time, I chased bad advice, and I made some expensive mistakes. But after teaching thousands of people how to tune their own cars, I've realized something. Most people don't struggle with tuning because they're dumb. They struggle because they're focusing on the wrong things. In my experience, getting better at tuning comes down to these three different things: mindset, strategy, and execution. There's way too much to cover all at once, so in this video, we're just going to focus on mindset, how you think about tuning, how you approach learning, and how to stop getting in your own way. I know mindset probably isn't the part that you're excited about, but I'm telling you, every time I see somebody that's stuck, frustrated, wants to give up, or making zero progress, this is always the part that they've skipped. By the way, so much of success in general comes from having a plan or a clear path to follow. So if you're working with Holley EFI, I put together an 8-step roadmap that will help guide you through the tuning process, so you're not just aimlessly adjusting things and running around in circles. It's free. You can grab it using the link in the description. This is literally the most important step, and it's the one that almost everybody skips. So what does being good at tuning actually mean to you? Or worded differently, what specifically do you want to get good at when it comes to tuning? And usually when I ask people this question, they look at me like I have 3 heads. So do you just want to be able to make minor adjustments to your own car? Do you want to tune your own personal vehicles start to finish? Are you trying to street tune? Are you trying to tune drag cars? Do you want to work on just high-end drag and drive builds? Or are you trying to turn tuning into a skill that makes you money and maybe even ultimately ends up becoming a career? There's no right or wrong answer here, but whatever your answer is changes everything, really. It affects maybe what ECU you choose to work with, how deep you want to go into certain topics, and even who you surround yourself with. Without this clarity, you'll waste a ton of time chasing stuff that doesn't matter for your goals. Ironically, I asked one of my full-time tuner members this question, and the answer that he gave me shocked me. It felt like it was the most honest answer anybody has ever given me when it comes to this question. So ultimately, I asked him what he wanted to be good at and what his goals were, and he said, "I just want to be known as the man."
So you how to be the man.
Then he elaborated on what being the man meant to him. He had a perfectly good vision. He knew exactly what he wanted. So that's not the answer that I ever would have given, but I was absolutely in love with the fact that he was so honest and that he had such a clear goal in mind. So if you don't know yet, take a couple minutes, really think about exactly what it is that you want to get good at, so that way you have goals and you can work towards them. So I've seen this happen over and over and over again. The people who actually get good at tuning are usually not the smartest people. They're not always the most technical, and they are rarely the most computer savvy. And honestly, this is especially true for people that are trying to build successful tuning businesses, but that's a whole different topic in itself. So the ones that quote unquote make it, the ones who, really stand out and grow, are just obsessed. From the time they wake up to the time they go to sleep, they're either thinking about tuning, wiring, digging through data, reading this, watching that, or just ultimately learning something new with every available moment that they have. My kind of lifelong best friend works for, well, maybe I shouldn't say who he works for in a YouTube video, but ultimately I'm located right outside of Washington, D.C., and he sometimes works in the White House. And love him or hate him, when Elon Musk was at the White House doing all of his government efficiency stuff, my friend was there, and I got to ask him a whole bunch of questions, more specifically what stood out the most about Elon, kind of, from a business smartest man in the world kind of perspective, however you want to look at that. But his answer was basically just how insanely fast and efficient he was, and how he surrounds himself with nothing but the smartest and the best people, and how fast he can make decisions. But most of all, how he just kind of lives and breathes what he does and his work. So if you think about it, the guy builds rockets, internet, satellites, implants brain chips, creates self-driving cars, and is worth $500 billion, if not more at this point. So he doesn't have to work, yet he probably works more than anyone else on Earth. And kind of a fun fact that always makes me laugh is that Elon has accomplished all of this stuff and then some, and people still call him an idiot. So if you're holding back on learning to tune because you're afraid someone's going to make fun of you for asking a question, or for not knowing something yet, or for doing something wrong, just kind of get over it. It's never not going to happen. So if you ignore all of the new political side of talking about him, if people will talk shit about Elon Musk, they'll talk shit about anybody, including you, me, and having a YouTube channel is actually a great way to get people to talk shit about you.
Ask me how I know.
So definitely keep in mind that this doesn't apply to just tuning. This will apply to anything new that you try to learn. So there's really no point in even giving it a second thought. Are you just never going to learn anything new or do anything new because you're worried about somebody else might say?
Get out of here, man.
What's also been a little bit interesting about being obsessed with things as I've gotten older, I spent the bulk of my teenage years skateboarding and obviously paying attention to all the pros and this, that, the other. And all of these guys that were just the absolute best in the world skateboarding are now older, not maybe doing it quite as much, or at least not at the level that they were before. And a lot of them have picked up on new hobbies. And it's probably not shocking that they've gotten extremely good at all of these new hobbies that they have. And you can tell that they're just equally as obsessed with, these new things that they're starting to do, just like when they were obsessed with the skateboarding. So if you want to get good at something, you got to be obsessed with it. I definitely noticed that a lot of people, when they're in a situation where they should be sitting back, listening and learning, they just won't stop talking. It's like they're trying to prove that they belong in the conversation instead of just sitting back and learning something. And ultimately, they end up walking away with nothing, which is a real shame. I had a guy that was paying me to do some one-on-one coaching, trying to grow his tuning business not long ago. And for every one sentence that I tried to get out, he'd cut me off with 4 of his own. And I don't think he realized that he was doing it, but it came off like he was trying to maybe impress me with what he knew instead of actually, trying to learn. And eventually I had to stop and say something to the effect of like, look, man, you're paying me for this. You can talk the whole time if you want to, but you're not going to learn anything, which kind of defeats the purpose. And to his credit, he sort of snapped out of it and he started asking a bunch of really good questions instead of, cutting me off nonstop. And from there, it got really productive. So in those situations or any other situation where you can learn from somebody, absolutely ask questions. That's one of the best ways to get better and to learn. But when somebody is giving you an answer, just shut up and absorb it. Don't cut them off. Don't talk about something else. Just take advantage of the situation that you're in where you can learn as much as possible. And if you're staying quiet and not asking questions in those situations because you're scared of sounding dumb, that is ironically the dumbest thing that you can do. So definitely ask questions and absorb the information being presented to you. If you don't schedule time to study and practice and you think that you're just going to spend time on it when time is available, it's probably just not going to happen. And this becomes significantly more true the older you get, especially if you have a wife or kids. Life's busy, work, family, parts delays, broken shit. There's always a reason to push it off. But if you're serious about getting better, it has to become part of your routine. Now, I'm not saying that you need to block off 5 hours a day and light candles like it's some sort of weird ritual or whatever, but you do need a consistent, uninterrupted time where you can sit down, open your laptop, review logs, watch videos, connect to your car, test things, make changes, just something, anything. And just watching videos like this while you take a dump doesn't count. So you don't get better at tuning by watching 4 hours of Cletus McFarland videos every day and hoping that it rubs off on you. You get better by opening the laptop, screwing something up, and learning from it. You're always going to learn the most from your mistakes. So you don't learn how to skateboard by watching 300 tutorials on how to do it. You actually have to go outside and fall on your head over and over again. So I would recommend that you treat it like going to the gym. You don't just lose 20 pounds by planning on going or hoping that you're going to go or going when it's convenient. You get results by showing up consistently, even if it's just for 30 minutes a day. Personally, I'd rather have a crankshaft fly through the firewall and hit me directly in the nutsack than go to the gym. So scheduling time to learn how to tune sounds significantly more enjoyable than scheduling time to go to the gym. I hate the gym. So as you get older and busier and you get more responsibilities, scheduling anything becomes far more difficult. But when you don't schedule things, they just tend to never happen. If you're married and your wife's all mad that you want to spend an hour learning how to tune conveniently at the exact same time that the dog shits on the carpet, the next tip might actually help buy you some alone time. So one of the fastest ways to kill your motivation is to just keep grinding and doing something over and over again with kind of no finish line in sight. Ironically, one of the most common questions I get with our different training programs and stuff is how long is it going to take me to learn how to tune, which kind of comes back full circle to the initial question, which is deciding exactly what being good at tuning means to you. So if you want to learn how to bump your idle up 50 RPM, it might take you 5 minutes. But if you want to learn how to tune every different system under the sun and make it a career, there's literally no end at all. So the best thing to do is to set goals, even if they're small ones, like get the car to return to idle without dipping, or understanding how acceleration enrichment works by the end of the week, something real, something trackable. And whatever it is that you're putting off or that you're, intimidated by or you don't want to do, it's usually a good indication that that is like the number one thing that you should be focusing on. And once you make these goals and you hit those goals, reward yourself. It doesn't have to be anything big. You can, buy yourself a part that you've been wanting, take a day off from messing with any of it, relax, eat a burrito the size of your head, whatever it is that makes it feel like the progress means something to you and something that you're going to look forward to. And if your wife is up your ass about the time you want to schedule to do this stuff, maybe consider including her in the reward. So nobody actually knows what women want, but instead of saying, after I learn how boost control works, I'm going to go buy myself a new turbo, change the conversation with your wife to, if you can give me enough time to learn how boost control works, then we can go and do whatever dumb shit it is that you want to do together. You might want to try to word it a little bit better than that, but you get my point. By setting goals, you're basically tricking your brain into wanting to do the hard or boring stuff, or to actually schedule time to do stuff even though it's inconvenient or a pain in the ass, or in some instances, tricking your wife's brain into letting you do something to better yourself instead of washing carrots or some shit. I have a lot of data to back this up at this point, but the guys who improve the fastest are the ones who stay consistent, and that's a lot easier when you give yourself something to chase and something to celebrate. Otherwise, what happens is you'll wake up in 3 months, you're going to feel burnt out, you're going to feel like you're not making any progress, and you're going to start telling yourself that tuning's just not for you. And by the way, that's not burnout, that's just boredom. So set some goals and make it fun. So we could talk about mindset for days, but that should get you going. Some of this mindset stuff sounds kind of weird and, I don't know, kind of like a crock of shit in a lot of instances, but I can say that I've made some changes in this regard that have completely changed my life in so many different ways. So it is extremely important. So if you find it stupid, I would suggest maybe taking a couple of steps back and putting a little more thought into it. So if you like these type of videos and you want me to make videos on the strategy and execution side of this stuff, comment below and click on this video here if you want to learn from the 15 tuning lessons that I had to learn the hard way so that you don't have to.